Awesome.
Okay.
All
Have
right.
one for me or two.
It's already been done, Steve.
Swing by on your way.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and kick the event off.
Perfect.
So hello and welcome to Tech2Market. This is this month's event, followed by the event last month.
That's
I
right.
guess that makes sense.
This is Derek Ellis.
And this is Kaz Lawler,
Thank
the
you.
fabulous Kaz Lawler.
Fantastic, Derek Ellis. Fantabulous.
And let's see if we have Jay Larson on our call.
I don't see him down there, so okay.
Well, we'll be.
Hey, I'm here, Kaz, Derek.
There you are.
Hey, Jay.
How you guys
so
doing?
if you wouldn't mind, this is our idea of an actionable event, followed by sort of a speaking event last month. But let's hear a couple of words from you about ITC.
Please.
Hey, thanks you guys. Appreciate you guys doing this. You look like I've been watching a little bit of Wayne's World, reruns.
It feels a little like that, Jay.
But you are far more dynamic than Dana Garvey and Mike Myers. But anyway, here we go.
A lot of nervous.
Nervous energy. I love it, Kaz. Hey, you guys. A lot of things are happening right now with the Idaho Technology Council, and one of the areas that's going to be happening May 18th is we're going to have the release of the Idaho Deal Flow Report, our Capital Connect series. Now, the Capital Connect series is going to be something that's going to be almost a monthly event where we actually highlight and discuss how companies are scaling their companies. We're going to have George Mulhern on. We'll have Jim Bean from Preco and their acquisition that they went through just about almost a year ago. We're also going to have the Count acquisition that just took place a couple months ago from Equifax. It will have Brad Wiskerson and Rich Stuppy and Jim Gassaway will be on to talk about that whole endeavor. So that's, but the deal flow report will be released to talk about I think about 155 deals that we were able to capture over $5.5 million, and that will be released with the help of Blake Hansen and team and Allison Johnson. But so that's one big thing. I think that's really good news. What we're finding is that during the last year of COVID, there's been a lot of activity, a lot of Idaho companies that have done amazing things. So that's one of the messages. The second one is that I was involved with over the last few weeks, two entrepreneurial challenges. One is the Idaho Entrepreneurial Challenge that Boise State puts on through Gordon Jones and the College of Innovation and Nick Miller over at Venture College. And that is an absolute fantastic deal, showing that there's a lot of ideas that are being generated from universities across the state. And and a lot of people winning a lot of money who are coming up with these ideas and trying to find a way to commercialize them and get them out into the marketplace. And then there was one yesterday that was the Northwest Entrepreneurial Challenge that was put on by Ryan and the team up at North Idaho College for the Northwest, and it was really a good one too, where they had people from Spokane, from Gonzaga, from University of Washington, a lot of University of Idaho, a lot of other universities were present in that one. And the good news is that I think our universities are understanding how important it is to be able to look at entrepreneurialism and to commercialize ideas, and having students that are really engaged in that process. So that's a fun one. And the last connection with having the discussion with Teresa McKnight and people on here, one of the biggest opportunities I think we continue to have is to look in the window of a soul of a community and to be able to see how strong it is, because there are individuals that are starting companies and taking risks and understanding how to go about that. And that really shows the strength of communities in our state, as that will mean that we're going to be leading out on new technologies as opposed to a late adopter of technologies. So, and lastly, we had a voyage for innovative education down in Utah. This time last week, we were down in Utah listening to their chair of their higher education department group, and a lot of different folks within the education. and we had an opportunity to really learn a lot of things that we'll debrief you on in the future. So, Nick, I mean, Kaz and Derek, I will turn it back to you, and thanks for all you guys are doing.
Yeah,
I was hoping
Nick was
Nick-
last week.
I was hoping Nick would take over.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No. So things are really heating up in Idaho. Even
Yeah,
this
it's really
week,
exciting.
there's news about FlexTrack with an investment of 10 million.
Wow.
So cool things happening, and it only happens with community. It only happens when we all know what resources are available to us.
That's true.
And I was going to comment, you guys, that's a good point, because we have the initiative getting 50 companies to the A round, which is 50 to the A. And PlexTrack was the most recent $10 million infusion of capital into their company. What a great deal. Thanks for bringing that up.
And I know those guys personally, and they're doing a great job. So it's exciting to hear.
That is exciting. And so let's segue into.
At a high level, we'll talk about Tech2Market real quick.
That's right, Tech2Market. So all of this is why we're here, and I'm going to read off my notes because I'm nervous. Create continual connecting points for entrepreneurs, startup community, capital providers, and economic resources. Because our goal, our intent, is to build a consortium of resources that build the Idaho economy through networking, mentoring, partnership, and resource sharing. And it's really great to see so many folks represented online here. So this is awesome. I see Carmen's with us. This is great.
So again,
Oh, no. I was just saying, I hope.
Yep. So, from ideation to commercialization, we're here to support growing companies. And that's the goal. Every month, Tech2Market's going to have an event that is supporting that cause. So this event is much more of an actionable series with a spotlight on resources that would be very, very important for small scaling companies, growing companies.
And these are statewide resources coming to us from Eastern Idaho.
From Eastern Idaho, from my stomping grounds, which is really exciting.
Area.
But a collaboration statewide.
Absolutely, statewide program. So should we turn it over to Teresa? I'm checking our list here.
So I'm gonna say that the title of this event today is the Idaho SBIR STTR Virtual Innovation Center event, helping Idaho companies secure non-dilutive R&D funding.
This is very important. I've been involved in the past with several of these programs, and
If only in some of my earlier companies, the startups I've worked with had the ability to access resources like this and know how to do it. We've been in a very different position. So the exciting thing is Teresa McKnight, the CEO of the READY program, is presenting today. This is her event. She can tell us all about it.
Teresa?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. We are so excited to present to you a concept that we put together, bringing statewide partners together to increase SBIR STTR activities in the state of Idaho. So what I would like to do first is I would like to just let you know how this all came about. And in January of 2020, as the CEO of Regional Economic Development for Eastern Idaho, which is known as READY, covering the Utah-Idaho border up to the Idaho-Montana border, 15 counties within that region, we formed what is called the Eastern Idaho Entrepreneurship and Incubation Alliance, EI squared. And the purpose of pulling that together, we were seeing an increase in our entrepreneurial activities. And we felt it was important to pull PTAC, SBDC, other organizations within our region together and form an entrepreneurial pipeline so that when entrepreneurs came to each one of those organizations, they would know which organization to hand the entrepreneurial off to next, what stage they were in, what services or support that they would require next. And so it was really to help put this pipeline together to increase those entrepreneurial activities and make sure that when that idea or research came to fruition, that they had all of the resources and services that they needed for success. And then in May of 2020, the state PTAC and Idaho Falls SBDC office reached out to Ready to partner together on submitting for the FAST grant and also for helping to host the Rockies Road Tour, the SBIR STTR Rockies Road Tour. And that's Utah, Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. So we held that in August. And of course, this theme came along called COVID. And so the road tour that would have been held face-to-face was now in a virtual environment. So at that time, we had a very successful road tour event. Because it was virtual, it was easy for Coeur d'Alene and people from Lewiston, Idaho, and other areas to be able to connect in a virtual environment. And from that, after the road tour, we really took a deep dive to say, where have our activities been setting as far as SBIR STTR? And in the Rockies, Idaho, unfortunately, was coming in 4th place. You can see the outline of how many grants were funded through Utah, through Montana, and Wyoming. And we thought, okay, let's see if we can pull all of this incredible powerhouse of people and organizations together and increase that. And if we end up in 1st place, that's great. If we end up in 2nd place, but it's better than 4th place. And so what we did was we started to look at developing a concept of who are those that we can bring into this wheelhouse that will be able to provide the support that we need to increase and to provide the ability to educate on what this great program is. There's $3.7 billion that comes through different federal programs every year. And so we pulled multiple or identified multiple organizations to develop this partner in which we would work in sync with one another to increase educational opportunities, mentoring, training, and also not only grants submitted, but we have strong grant applications so those grants are funded. And through that, the goal was to create this new pathway through an organization that we put together called Innovate Idaho to create a virtual innovation center concept for SBIR and STTR grants. So through this statewide collaboration, it was really this opportunity to bring statewide partners together, remove silos in which we could work hand in hand, strong network of experts and mentors, bringing all of those resources together to really build a strong pipeline for increasing activities of this program. So we met with all of the partners identified, we built the consensus, we put together a hub and spoke model where the hub will be in Idaho Falls with Ready, PTAC, and SBDC leading the way. And then our spoke partners, which I will identify here, came together, Boise State Tech Transfer Office, Idaho Commerce through the iGEM program, so Carmen, and INL Tech Deployment Office, Idaho Procurement Technical Assistance, PTAC. So the ones identified in red are the hub, and the ones identified in black are the spokes to support this model. So I'd now like to turn the time over to Lori Manning, who is the director at the state PTAC office.
Thanks, Teresa. So you know what's interesting about the SBIR is it can be very complicated, and it doesn't need to be as complicated as it appears to be. So when you start out, you have to first identify what federal program you're going to go with, look through the solicitations and topics. Does your technology have something that meets one of those? Are you qualified as a company, or can you have somebody help qualify you as a company? You got to find a champion. The commercialization process can be a true challenge for an entrepreneur who maybe is more tech-minded and not so business-minded. You know, you got to figure out your project budget and what are your next steps to make this actually work. And I really believe this is where Innovate Idaho, the PTAC, the SBDC, and all of our partners will be able to help you. All right, next slide. So one of the things that we're trying to create, a driving purpose, is to help partner companies with other companies. It's about networking, and that's what makes people successful in any industry. And so our Virtual Innovation Center will be serving Idaho companies only. We're going to be providing assistance in all aspects of the SBIR and STTR procurement. For example, the PTAC, we're very good at helping identify what your needs are, getting you started and starting you through that first phase of the application process. Then we have SBDC and Ready who can help with advancement in your commercialization. There's so many opportunities here with each of our stakeholders that will be able to help build up and bolster, if you will, an application and a person who wants to submit, the national win rate for an SBIR is pretty low. It's typically, they say, even as low as 8%, can go up to 17%. 14 to 17 is what we see oftentimes in the Northwest. We really believe we can do better than this. With a partnership of a lot of knowledge, we should be able to pull that together and begin to get consistent wins. Next slide. There's over $3 billion, guys, given yearly in the SBIR and STTR grants. So what is it? It's basically a competitive 3-phase program. You have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and they can reach the millions and millions of dollars for each of these different levels. We help people take their innovative ideas. If the federal government sees that that might be a need that they could use or develop or create into something that they would want, then they will then give money for allowing the business owner or the business inventor, if you will, to take that and actually do the research and development necessary to complete the project from prototype to commercialization. And this is what we're very interested in. As a PTAC, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, we simply want to help you get this application in and phased. But the SBDC, the Ready, and all of our other partnerships want to see an economic impact within our state and help you develop a business that will truly make a difference in our environment that we see economically here. And so their goals are to help you not only develop something that the federal government can use, but to also create something that's going to produce jobs, tax dollars, and an involvement, if you will, in the state that puts us on the map. So what is the SBIR and STTR funding agreements? Well, they're typically considered a cooperative agreement, a grant, contract, but basically it's unpaid money back. You do not have to pay it back. It's given to you to be able to move this idea, this development experiment forward, and to be able to make a difference in what you're trying to achieve. We've seen some businesses do this who are already very established and they have a great idea and they think, wow, I wonder if this would make a difference in the federal government. Would they give me money? The answer is yes. We've seen startups do this who have had no business background and are literally starting from nothing, creating a concept that now builds a business around it. So this is truly from A to Z. It covers every industry and every business that we can find in Idaho. Next slide. So some of the benefits of this program is a non-equity position dollar. You do not have to match. You don't have to put up money. You don't put something into an escrow, if you will. None of those things are required. It is truly dollars given based on your innovation, your ability to explain that innovation in an application, and the ability to prove that you can make that a business or commercialize it. And that is what they are truly looking for. Your funding is stable, it's predictable. This is not a loan. The capital is non-dilutive. The small businesses retain the intellectual property rights. Guys, this is huge. A lot of times when you have an investor come in, we've all seen this on Shark Tank, they come in and they'll give you $100,000, but they want 25% of your property. This is not the way that works. The federal government's going to actually give you the funds to be able to develop this, and you get to retain the intellectual property rights. That's tremendous for being able to eventually build a strong economic situation. Rigorous peer reviews, that'll provide you recognition, validation. You know, early stage companies struggle. It's truly word of mouth, it's networking. And with the winning of an SBIR award, it's going to give you the ability to be placed on the map and be seen for what you have developed and the technology you have. There's other prestigious awards associated, and it will certainly attract more funding, more money, more partnerships. Who knows? Next slide, sorry. So the SBIR STTR federal funding program, it awards, like I said, over $3.6 billion annually. It's been mandated by Congress. Many people say, is this program going to even stay? Is it worth going for? Will I get it the first time? We often hear these questions. The answer to that is yes, it's going to stay. Yes, it's funded by Congress. And no, I cannot guarantee you'll get it the first time. But try and try and try again. Never give up. Keep working at it, because you will eventually be able to create the right application to try to win that award. Small Business Technology Transfer, the STTR, has 0.45% of the extramural research budgets of over $1 billion. There is a lot of money being put into our technology development. America is attempting to stay ahead of our biggest competitors. It is really important that we continue to push our entrepreneurs, the little man, if you will, to create these ideas that are going to make a difference. Teresa mentioned earlier in her slide presentation that we were basically last place in the Northwest. I mean, I don't see it as fourth. I see it as we're last place. I don't like to be in last place, and I'm sure you don't either. And to see that we've only had 3, 4, 6 different SBIR grants approved over the last 2-3 years, it's disconcerting. And so one of the things that I was really excited about is, since we've begun to really put a focus on the SBIR in the state, our Idaho PTAC approached Ready, and those of us in the SBDC, and those of us who have put this emphasis, we are already seeing a turnaround. Guys, we had 11 SBIRs approved and granted in the year of 2020. 11. That is the highest number we've had since 2012. 11. 2 of them were phase 2s, which means up to $1 million, and 9 of them were phase 1s. So we have already more than tripled the number that came in the year prior. So this is exciting. And our goal this year is to see 20. We want 20 grants approved for the year. So I'm going to turn it out now over to Bam, my colleague. He is our SBIR guru, as I call him. And we're going to let Bam take you through the next few slides.
Thank you, Lori. Guru, I'm not sure. But one thing we should notice from the slide that Lori just gave, we spent $3.6 billion, and Lori said maybe it will go away, maybe it won't. One truth is, the city-state of Singapore spends $12.5 billion on the SBIR STTR program. So we have a competition globally, and the world is becoming an ideal world. Anyway, now looking at the SBIR and STTR programs, they are kind of different, and we have clients that ask about these differences. The STTR is where our universities and our national lab and our other federal agencies in the state, they can play. Now, these institutions are behemoths of capacity in personnel, in experience, in equipment, and management. And they are here for us to grow. And other states are taking advantage of it. And so that's the reason we're trying to iterate this. An SBIR program should easily have a principal investigator. Well, all programs will have principal investigator, and the partner or not is a choice for SBIR programs. And then, of course, the funding, the budgeting is split according to the percentages that is shown here at the discretion of the company. With the STT, well, the principal investigator must always be a staff of the company, either way. So the principal investigator may be a staff of the private company, may come from the lab, may come from a university, but at the time of award, more than 50% of their time must be out of the company, and the company will be able to pay for that. And so that's just a major difference. However, I think with respect to what Teresa had said about a goal will be to see how we can use all this capacity that is in Idaho. When you look at the numbers, the universities we have about 6 of them, and there are states with about 1 or 2 universities, and they're performing much better. They're using all these facilities. And the goal of the SBIR is not to create a few top-notch companies, it's to create the maximum capacity to represent the population. And so we're hoping that we can keep going. Now let's go to the next slide, Teresa. The next slide, please. Yeah, so these are highly competitive grant awards. These are highly competitive grant awards to encourage small businesses. The federal government really wants small businesses to explore their technological potential. Well, there are a lot of people that have worked in the university, they're out of it. They have worked in the labs, they're out of it. And there are those naturally gifted people that have developed through different aspects of our system. And everybody's given the capacity to bring out what is in it and can come through. The goal, though, is commercialization. I think is the American way with capitalism. If it cannot sell, why try? That's not to kill it in every case. There are those that also, if the ideas are ideas of the future, and yet the commercialization is still a few years out, the programs can consider some of those things. But the end goal, this is the one for Idaho, is to stimulate high-tech innovations and build entrepreneurial drive through R&D. We want high-tech companies in Idaho, and we think we can. We have capacity to do it. We like to do it. Let's move on to the next one, please. Next slide. Now, small businesses, I think it's been said to no end today about how it's a non-dilutive funding, no loss of your IP to the government. And I think that the phase 3 program. Now, when you've heard about the Title 8A program of the Small Business Administration, the SBIR STTR grants, other than the prestige Laurie mentioned, it's also one that gives the status of an 8A business within the area of the research that was performed. And so the government gives you capacity to build your, the funding to build your capacity, and then you can be an 8A, means sole sourcing. An agency can decide. Contract officers in federal systems are restricted by a lot of what's it called, regulations to how they can spend the money. But on 8A and SBIR phase 3 sole sourcing, they can decide to spend the money as much. That means the government is intending to help these companies grow. They can spend $100 million on you with no restriction. Let's go to the next slide, please. Well, the agencies that, the blue ones, the agencies that are primary agencies will be the DoD for SBIR and STTR, Health and Homeland, HHS, NASA, DOE, NSF, USDA, EPA, DHS, ED, Department of Commerce, and Department of Transport. Now, the other ones below mostly are from defense. Defense has more than 50% of the entire SBIR project, well, the entire US government budget. And I think when Laurie had shown it, it's a percentage of the research budget that is assigned to the SBIR program. So defense has a lot of money, and so they have to find ways to make sure this is program relevant. And so all the programs in red are mostly those that came down from other defense agencies, and the ones in green below, they come from the Navy, showing that how much money, and they spend quite a few. And I think the huge ones are there are big funding agencies and there are small funding agencies. You just have to find missions that are relevant to the research ideas that we have. We'll come to that. The ideas have to be relevant to the missions of each of these agencies. That's how you decide where to submit to. The most general of them is the National Science Foundation that allows people to submit ideas. The Health and Human Services allow the same within borders of restriction. But most of the other ones, I think they're mostly defined. Can we go to the next slide, please? Teresa, next slide, please. Well, the budget shows here. I told you the DoD has, I think, more than half, maybe just a little less than half. I may have overshot there. And then the Health and Human Services have the bigger ones. You have the DOE and the NSF, and then NASA, and then the other agencies. Of the 9, this is how it is split. So the DoD budget of about 1.8 billion is the one that spreads to those several others, about 21 sub-agencies, programs. Let's go forward to the next slide, please. Well, like Laurie told you, it's a 3-part program. The parts that are very consequential for us, every part is consequential. The phase 1, getting in, is a task. And that is part of why this Innovation Center is set up. Phase 3 is a challenge. In Idaho, we've had, at least we have one company that has had a few small phase 3 contracts. But most of our phase 2s stop there so far. Much of it because there is not a show up of support groups to carry this through. Where we have the programs, what's called participant partners in this program, that we hope and we think they are set up to help companies grow, to make it not intellectual alone. The federal goal is to commercialize these ideas. So the phase 2 is a different thing, moving from phase 1 to phase 2. It's a proof of feasibility. But going to phase 3 and beyond is a task that we're still looking forward to. And we need all the partners that are here. I think in Teresa's narration, the core, and then the spoke that we go with the hub and the spoke. Everybody is needed to help Idaho get past phase 3. We want results and we want companies that will succeed here. Let's move to the next slide, please. Yeah, well, the amount of money that is given, sometimes you start small and then you go big. The DoD typically will allow you to do work for 2 months and then make a decision right up $50,000. But they can fund you up to $1 million after that, and then they can buy these products from you forever. So even though it starts at $50,000 for 3 months with the DoD, if it's well nurtured, this can become more than $50 million in value, probably more, because the DoD has the money to buy if you did something they needed. And then there are those programs that allow 12 months, which is like the STTR, because there's going to be coordination. And then I think the highest phase 1 currently is National Science Foundation at $256,000. Now, the other agencies can probably get to the $256,000 through a different way. There are many, many clauses that the SBA allow for them for commercialization. And many agencies give a grant and then give other things that will get you close to $256,000, maybe even more than that, like the Health and Human Services, they can. However, you have to explore a technical merit, you have to prove feasibility, and then you have to, of your tech concept. Now, that is the most critical part of the whole thing. That's like a foundation. You don't have it, you're not going forward. I think I heard you say earlier that you had clients that could have used this in the early stages of their development and they could have made much success. Correct. But the critical point is this technical merit, the technical concept. Proving it is a whole art in itself. And then we submit proposal with solicitation. David will be talking about the solicitation. Let's go to the next slide. Well, again, the phase 2s are something of an art. So in phase 2, where the funding can go to 1 million, 1.5 million, perhaps even more in some cases, based on the structuring. So the government finds out that there are companies that have developed their own phase 1, and so they have already accomplished proving the feasibility. They don't need to go start again. So they go ahead and prove how they're going to commercialize. Commercialize means there is a market waiting for the product, and you have identified it. You have known how you will do your market entry. Now, but there is what the market needs, and then you are able to provide that. The DoD actually does something interesting. The DoD asks, the Air Force typically asks their own SBIR applicants to go and look for an Air Force agency that is actually in need of these products. And then the Air Force agency will write specification of the product that they want actually so that they can adopt it quickly. And if you don't get it as a customer memorandum, they weren't going to give you an award. So it wasn't just letters of support. And so there are so many companies that already developed these products. And if they could get that within the Air Force, they did make it. And so, and then I think it's just been so many dynamics about how you can go about this. Now you can win a phase 1 with an agency. For example, the DoD, there are many areas they won't touch because they're looking for contract. But you could use, say, an NSF or Health and Human Services to develop an idea and then move to Defense Health Agency to go do a contract. You could find many ways to start phase 1 and then go to phase 2. So phase 2 is an art and you can approach it in many ways. Again, this is one area in our state, coordination can help many companies move forward if the ideas can be communicated. Next slide, please. Well, this is just describing just the process of writing proposal, the evaluation and award making. You will notice we just describe how different types of approach to phase 2. Some people got a phase 1 and then moved to a phase 2. Some people started from a phase 2, and some people had a phase 1 from a different agency and came to a phase 2 in a different agency here, say the DoD, because remember, the goal is to get commercialization. So if you got phase 2 and then got a phase 3 from the DoD, phase 3 is how you get contract. If you didn't do your phase 2 with the DoD, you'll be struggling to appeal to them because the specifications of what they needed, they're not familiar with your technology. But if you got, say, a phase 2 with the DoD and a DoD agency, well, they were already prepping you for a potential phase 3 if you were able to meet the specs they needed. And then an award is typically made within about 6 months for phase 2. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thanks. Okay, good. So again, this is just the rules that have just made it. So there are the new rules about the phase 2 moving in. There are those that are allowed. If an agency had need, you developed COVID by the year 2010 and nobody used it, and then COVID came up. Of course, an agency is allowed to reach back into your ideas and start to use your idea to do a phase 2 with the intention of doing a phase 3 quickly. So the agencies are given that liberality to come into phase 2 in many ways. So there are those since phase 2013 till now, from say NSF, from HHS, from DHS, and then you wanted to do your phase 2 with the DoD, that's fine. The DoD is the goal because they have a huge amount of budget, so significant. Okay, let's move on to the next one, please. Good. So I think I've explained much of this. The one thing that is important here is that how you get solicitation and knowledge about where a phase 2, it can be in the solicitation from the DoD through a contract that, because I think Laurie spoke much about the grants. There are contracts too in this program, and the DoD uses that instrument a lot, almost exclusively, as much as they can. But they also do broad agency announcemements, which are not necessarily SBIR, or sometimes they are, but they don't carry contract. They're still grants. So they give you the wisdom. So the goal here, I think, from the small business is to get that money to do what I want to do. But the most important thing, which this Idaho Virtual Innovation Center wants to do, is to tailor what you want to do with what the government wants. And once you have that match, you can fit into any of this, but we need to find a way that your interests can match what the government wants. It's not enough for you to just have an idea. It has to match what the government wants. And so we think we have the ability to help in these ways. I think that's about all. You must demonstrate scientific and intellectual proof of feasibility. Oh, that's unbelievable. And it must be, okay, for here, those are the things that you must demonstrate in submitting a phase 2 direct to phase 2. You must have all the phase 1 intellectual and feasibility. You must have those successfully done at your firm. And then all the work must not have been performed with federal fund or being performed in a different SBIR program. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, and then this is the ultimate goal. I'm going to come back to this one. I will still talk to you after David, but this is the ultimate goal. You can commercialize in the private sector. You get investors, you get venture capitalists, you get people. And in our state, we believe we have the wherewithal in our state, both financial and capacity to do this stuff. You can also commercialize in the federal sector, which is federal contracting. And that's the one that gives what I call the fourth bullet. It's a SBA directive, sole sourcing, government contract. The contracting officers have signatures that can release money, but they are restricted, again, by so many regulations. When it comes to Title 8A, the government is intended to help a company to grow. It's a business development effort, initiative. The same thing with the SBIR. Once your technology meets specifications of a federal agency, the contract officer is not restricted, and they can choose to direct so much contract in the way of these companies. So both of these aspects are things that we're doing in this innovation center to try to help our folks here. I think I will stop and pass this over. I'll come back to this point again about our relevance in these regards. I'm passing this over to David Noack from this point.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to be part of this team. I've actually been working with SBIRs and companies for the better part of 20 years, and it's been real gratifying to work with around a dozen of them that were successful in obtaining phase ones and phase twos, actually quite a few phase twos. And one of the things that's really critical that I've discovered from the SBDC and on the proposal development side of it is companies and individuals, they have to develop a pathway to success with the SBIRs. And if they don't understand the landscape, it makes it really tough to navigate that. And that's why we've pulled this organization together. And there's been a lot of work done in the past, but the success hasn't been where it needs to be as much as we'd like to see. And right now we've got the best high power team I've ever seen in Idaho in 20 years. And so really excited about this opportunity. One of the key things that companies need to do is they need to put together a compelling technology proposal. And there's a few things to consider in that. The awards to fund the proposal, there's early stage innovation that's critical. It's not to be considered by other types of capital funding sources. In other words, if this is something that's already easy to get to or an easier pathway, that's one thing. But if there's a technology and people are looking for funding, but they can't find early stage funding, this is a great way to approach the project if they've got an innovation that's innovative and unique. Another thing is a lot of times these things, most of the time, these are in the high risk category, this innovation. So it's getting it to move the needle forward. And this is where this program comes into play. And the SBIR STTR program is all about. So high risk, innovative solution to critical problem that society has or that industry has, a societal need. Also, it's not an engineering solution. It's not something that's already engineered. It's completely known to science. It's something that needs to be innovated to a higher level or innovated and to get off the beginning stage. The high reward end of it, if people are successful in this, my big focus is instead of companies starting off with where they're at and trying to get a phase one, and that's where their focus is at. One of the big things is look beyond the mark, begin with the end in mind. Where can this go? If we can get to a phase 3 level, that's exclusive government contracting level, which is incredible opportunity for companies. Next slide. Yeah, and for a company to be eligible, there's quite a few things that come into play. It needs to be a for-profit company. It needs to be 51% of the ownership must be by individuals who are citizens or residents of the United States. And the company needs to be 500 or fewer employees, including its affiliates. And just so everybody knows, the SBA's definition of a small business is 500 or less employees in a company. So this fits right in with the SBA's metrics. Another thing is what we highly encourage is to work with our organization, the Idaho Virtual Innovation Center, in helping to develop an SBIR STTR. We've worked with companies, we've been there, done that. BAM himself has been successful in obtaining 8 of them, 8 SBIRs himself. And so it's wonderful having somebody that's been there, done that, both in phase 1, phase 2s, and currently in a phase 3 application. Next slide. And when it comes to making these proposals, there's a number of different agencies, major agencies that we're working with, and they have timeframes for when these proposals are to be submitted. And if you look at this graph right here, it shows the timeframe when actual submissions can be made. Individuals and companies, before they get to this time frame, they need to already be on top of the type of solicitations that they may be able to qualify for and go out and research this with these different agencies, put the proposal together work with the Idaho Innovation Center with our organization to help them to posture and prepare themselves to make these applications. And you'll see that some of the agencies here are more than just one time a year. Sometimes they have 2, 3, or 4 different timeframes for solicitations. Next slide. One of the key things to discovering what agencies are interested in right out of the gate is to go to the website, the SBIR.gov, and then get into the different agencies and use this link on the screen to start discovery. What is available out there? Where's the government agency interests at? And how could I potentially link what I have capabilities of innovating and making a connection there? Next slide. And then the other thing is, when they get to the agencies, it's absolutely critical, and most companies don't get this when they're first starting. It's like any other business approach. They need to put together a 1 to 2 page executive summary, very focused, very to the point, and they need to pitch to the program managers or the technical point contacts is really important. And then the technology, the types of things that are covered is technology innovation in this. What is the innovation that they have? The objectives, the challenges that society faces, how this might resolve that or help solve that problem, what the market opportunity is, who could use this, how expansive might this be, what are the company and the team that we have or that we can pull together that can help to make this a reality. The NSF requires an elevator pitch. And from my experience in working with all the different companies, every single company needs to have an elevator pitch to build their team, to bring in resources and so forth, make it very simple to understand. One of the things we've discovered is a lot of companies get so entrenched in the technology just because they know how to build and engineer a 747 aircraft doesn't make them a pilot. And that's where if they can get an elevator pitch put together, pull the team together and have a business approach to commercialization is essential. And that's where the elevator pitch can help articulate this in 30 seconds or less possible. And then utilize again the Idaho SBIR STTR Innovation Center, which we've pulled together here and on a statewide level. This is incredible. Next slide. When building a company or team, the PI is the principal investigator, and he directs the project or she directs the project. They must be employed by the business that's doing the SBIR STTR proposal. They must work for the company at least 51% of the time during the time of the award while they're trying to submit and working on the SBIR. They cannot work full-time elsewhere. Being a PhD is beneficial, but quite frankly, it's not a requirement in any way, shape, or form. If somebody's got the capability of innovating, that's requisite. Then building other team members who can be pulled on this to make this successful, especially looking down the road towards commercialization. And one thing we've discovered is the agencies are very concerned about commercialization. There's more emphasis than I've ever seen in all the years I've been working on these. If companies are just interested in developing a technology, but they're not focused on how this is going to commercialize and fit into the needs of society, their odds of getting a successful awarded SBIR STTR are next to none. So it's really important. Next slide. And following on with additional points on that, again, there must be a principal investigator, a project lead. Scientists, engineers, innovators are part of the team that can help do the research, that can help innovate this technology. Connect with experts in the industry, with different industry players, companies that can help commercialize or that could utilize and so forth. There must be a business commercialization lead to the entire project, and a commercialization team is essential looking down the road and bringing this to pass. And the more of this that's modeled out and thought up front, the more powerful and the more successful a organization or company can be at obtaining an SBIR STTR grant. And again, use the Idaho Virtual Innovation Center as one of the team members. And every single phase that I'm talking about can be bounced through, modeled, and worked with through our team. Next slide. And agencies, solicitations, and topics. One of the key things right out of the gate when somebody does start to move forward, if they've got a model that they've pulled together and they've worked with the Idaho Innovation team, one of the key things is to find a champion within the agency, somebody that you can connect with or that a company can connect with inside the NSF or the Department of Defense or whichever solicitation we're interested in. It's nice to find champions on the outside who are literally passionate about what's going on in the industry and so forth as well. This is their job. This is the, when it comes to the agencies and the officers, this is their job. This is what they do. And one critical thing I tell companies when they're putting together an SBIR, put it in English. Sometimes we get so technical that a lot of the reviewing officers aren't scientists. They're decision makers. And if it doesn't make sense to them, another company may get an opportunity, and we lost out on our potential SBIR approach. So this is where we can come in and help to clarify things and help to make it a lot simpler to understand. Begin with a two-way dialogue with this individual. And if this is where the pitch comes into play. If they've got a good pitch and they can start working with the officers and the officer sees the vision, the odds are radically increased that it may be successful. And then there are opportunities to create our own SBIR STTRs. If we see an interest in an agency, but there's no SBIR STTR, it's a little bit longer pathway sometimes. But there is a way to introduce technologies that aren't even on the solicitation screen by the agencies. There's no guarantees to win, but you can stack we can stack the odds in the favor of the companies by helping them to walk through people that have been there, done that, have experience in helping them to build a winning proposal. Next slide. So the commercialization plan is the ultimate focal point. So what if we develop or innovate a new technology if nobody needs it? And if we begin with the end in mind again, the commercialization end of it, how can this benefit society? How can this benefit industry, move the needle forward in areas of need and so forth? And if we can make those connections and put a successful plan together, for commercialization, we need to demonstrate again the benefits to the market, how this is competitive, how this, what unique value proposition do we have, what makes this, what are the differentials, what channels have we got to market, what successful business strategy are we going to utilize? So this is a lot more than just doing a technology approach. They've got to have a business model thought through in general on the front end, and it needs to purify and polish as they're moving forward. And that's where all of us in this meeting today come together to help out companies. So we develop partnerships, we can build letters of support, we identify target markets, come up with compelling, and I love this word, emotional pains. What are the emotions that we can connect to? Most people make purchases off of things that they want, and it comes from internal pains and things that they're interested in gaining. What tangible, desirable benefits have we got in the that are outflows from the project? And again, what are the differentiators that we have? And the bottom line is put together a successful business plan, as well as a technology innovation and development plan. It's actually a combination of plans here, and this is why it's so important. Most people that we meet are strong in technology or strong in business, but they're not necessarily strong in both. And that's where we come to play. And I'm done with this part.
So thank you, David. David has said most of what's here, perhaps in the next 3 slides, and I have a few comments just as we go. Now, there are many agencies around the country that will do some of the things that Idaho SBIR STTR Innovation Center will offer to do. We have the Arrowhead program in New Mexico, I think sponsored by the SBA. A lot of our folks from Idaho have been going to this agency, which is good. Then the agencies themselves, the DOE has support programs to help people, Phase O program, Phase Zero program. And then we have within the NIH, the AAP program. I think some of our folks just walked through that program now, Jeff Dalton, with Legacy US in Boise. They just walk through some of these things. And so we're happy with these progresses. Now, but we offer something that is unique here. The differentiator for us, what we can offer our companies in Idaho is that Phase 3. We're very set focus in trying to get that Phase 3, our companies to Phase 3 stage, because we think we need high-tech companies that will change the face of Idaho. If we can get quite a few of them, we'll be so happy. We have INL here, we have the universities here. If we can get high-tech companies, we define how our own society is going to advance within this American narrative. And then because we have this Title 8A status, if we can use all the muscle and the networks that we can help our states get much of the federal expenditure that is at $500 billion every year to small businesses. And these businesses can get a big chunk of this. I think the last time we were at a conference, the Navy had $17 billion. And they're coming to Boise in August. They're looking for people who can get it. These programs help us to bridge that, and we want to do that. You can move this slide. I won't be reading it. And I think what we offer, like David said to you, is that we can help you develop and narrate your own transformative idea. Communication is the biggest value that you gain in this SBIR program. You can have an idea. If you cannot communicate it, nobody's buying. If you will get in federal government, yeah, you might. But if you want to sell to the public, you got to communicate. This program offers you capacity to do that. That's the first step for you to go even into other programs that will help you. So we'll help here. And then the final thing that I like to say with respect to all this that we do is that our partners at the universities, Idaho Technology Council and the INL, they're a huge part of this possibility. We can't do this by ourselves. We need all the help, and it's for our own state's transformation. We think we're in the age to do that. These are some of the things we can do, and then we ask that our own clients, as well as our own partners, stay current. I'll hand this over to Laurie now and let her finish this. Laurie? Laurie, is she on?
Her microphone's on, off.
Laurie? I hope she's there. Okay, well, let me go ahead. Laurie?
Just need to unmute, Lori.
There we go. I couldn't get it to unmute. It was like being forced to stay muted. That was sort of odd. Sorry, guys. So with that, we just want to say that we're glad you joined us today, that we could give you a quick preview of what is coming, what we have already started, and obviously what is already seeing success in the state of Idaho. With the 11 new SBIRs already awarded in 2020, help us to reach that goal. If you have an innovative idea, reach out to the Innovative Idaho Center, our virtual center. Reach out to Lori Manning, to Bam Omotowa, Dave Noack, Teresa. Any of us can get you in the right place to get you started, to get you to be able to be vetted, if you will, to make sure that you're ready to move forward and you have what we need to be able to help you get to where you want to go from A to Z. We appreciate your time today. I'm not sure if there's any questions or answers, but I will allow this Kaz and Derek to wrap us up and take us into any questions or answers. I know that we are trying to push for time and get this closed out. So thank you for having us today. We're really grateful. We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, team. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Bam. Thanks, Lori. I'm going to bring up the slide just to outline who our statewide partners on with the Idaho SBIR STTR Virtual Innovation Center.
Thanks, y'all are awesome. This is fantastic. We've been talking the whole time about all this great information going, hey, we got to do that. We got to do that.
About all the companies we think that could be benefited from this, including mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we do have one request online. Is this deck going to be available? And are we going to be able to post it on, well, is it available on your website? And then can we post it on the Tech2Market website? And can you hear us?
Yeah, it looks like Teresa's locked up there.
Yeah,
Well-
I think that we can make this available to anyone that needs it. We're happy to send it out. I know that Teresa's probably locked like I was because my mute button got locked up. So we will make sure that any of the folks, we'll get it to you and then you can send it out to your list of subscribers.
All right, and we'll also make sure that there's a link to your site. So this event will go on to the Tech2Market site, and we'll make sure that there's a link to your sites. And maybe we can recreate the links that you have in here, as well as this presentation. That would be awesome. Let me see, it looks like we're looking at,
We have to scroll up to see the lists.
Mary, did you have a question?
I wanted to make a comment if I could. This has been just an outstanding presentation. I am not involved with this group, but what I wanted to comment was I was an SBIR STTR NIH grant reviewer in the early 20s. So I would get these grants as an NIH reviewer. And the 2 points that were made today that I thought were outstanding, and I came because it's been so long to see where Idaho is. I was in a different state when I was doing these reviews. I moved to Idaho about 10 years ago. And the two things that came to mind are commercialization. As a reviewer, lots of these people had these great ideas about, oh, this is really outstanding technology and I want to do this. But it was for the moment and not in the future. And what is it going to mean for commercialization? So you really brought that point up, which I think is outstanding. So my point is that's still the point in the case. And the other thing is readability. The grants that fared well in the ones that I reviewed were easily readable. I am not a technology person. I was brought into the group because the technology that was being reviewed was to improve health in the community and for society. So I always ask the so what question. So if you do this, so what? What is it going to mean for the community, the state, or society? So everything you said today was just like deja vu. It's so important. So I want to say thank you for this presentation, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, the one, Mary, that's really exciting in Idaho, I've never seen in 20 plus years so many resources pulled together, so focused as they are right now on the SBIR program ever. And I've worked with a lot of companies, and the Idaho National Lab is outstanding, but it's not on the street with a lot of the companies. And this is the best pathway I've ever seen. So many resources, so many partners.
Yeah, that's true. In Idaho, I'm at Idaho State University as a professor at Idaho State University, and we have outstanding scientists, researchers who can partner up and do these sorts of things. So this was a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
It agreed, truly was fantastic. You all out there are, yay, Idaho, you're doing a remarkable job pulling all of these resources together. I thought it was also interesting, the Commerce Department was also highlighted in there.
That's right. Talking about the Commerce Department, we have Jenny on the line too, I believe still,
And
but
Carmen, there you are.
and Carmen, and I think about
Carmen.
programs some of my companies have used over the years too, to include like the Gold Key programs and some of the international programs that really help small companies grow. But maybe Commerce can talk a little bit about what you guys are doing.
If you can get off mute.
I'll let Carmen start since she does more of this technical stuff.
Just a moment or two, if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
Happy to. I think in years past, we've gone on the road and described the SBIR STTR program and partnered with the SBDC, partnered with our universities. I just want to commend this team for kind of wrangling us all together and really putting together this team to really focus on this non-dilutive funding that's available to Idaho companies. And I think it was Mary that said this effort has not been seen before. So I just wanted to just give kudos to this team for really taking the bull by the horn and really helping Idaho with this untapped resource of undiluted funds that are really going to help Idaho companies. In regards to what Idaho Commerce is doing, we are trying to be a very supportive partner in this. And Teresa, she has a wealth of experience along with, I would say, the consultants at the SBDC. So we're here just to help them to bring awareness to the program, to also, when we come across different companies within our own operations, making sure that they're aware of this program. I met with the Idaho Women's Business Center yesterday, and I think Thea is on this call. And so just getting the word out that this is another resource to Idaho companies.
Yeah, kudos to that Ready website. That's pretty awesome.
I think we're getting some thank yous, but
Yeah, lots of thank yous.
lots of thank yous. Does anybody on the line have a question around the program or a question for Teresa
For the gang out there.
or the gang?
One thing I might do while they're coming up with questions is one of the key things that we're noticing is that it's not just the technology, but it's the pathway forward for commercialization that we just talked about. So one of the key things on the front end for companies that we like to do is review with them what they have, what the innovation is, how it ties into a solicitation. And then the next key thing is let's develop a technology pathway model. Let's help them figure out all the different elements, including commercialization, technology, team building, all that. So that's essential on the front end. And then if they start going forward, it's a lot easier to put a pitch together.
I think that's well said, David. Speaking from the standpoint of a serial entrepreneur, some of my struggles have always been the lift it takes once you cross over. How do we get help doing the things that we need to do to make these programs work for ourselves?
I think based on what you just said, the lift and what David said, from the experience I've heard, and I think from what Dr. Mary Nice has said from ISU, trust me, most people think they can speak. The truth is most people cannot communicate. If you can communicate and know the value of what you have, we will all be very successful in business. But that communication itself, somebody else has to listen to you to know that you're making sense. Now, this is why this center can be very useful. You can have many people that don't need to take money from you to help you make your statements. And if you cannot make sense to 6 people, trust me, you're just talking to yourself. And there's a lot of people that are developing technology. The direction in which it has to go, you have no idea. It's good you have an idea, but when you speak to people and you learn to do that, you begin to know how valuable what you have is, and other people begin to buy in. If you cannot communicate, nobody's investing and nobody's buying. And so in PTAC, for example, we ask people, write what you want to offer to the government in 25 words or 50 words. That's a challenge that a lot of people think is worth a PhD. It's not, but the only problem is you cannot communicate. And so this program helps you to communicate, not just in English. David said it, you have to say it, not in science, not in engineering, in English, as Dr. Nice told you, as a reviewer, if you cannot come across, oh, you can have all the idea you want in the world, it's going nowhere. And so this is what the kind of things we try to do is. The first thing is to crystallize what your transformative idea is. Just say it. And you might go to other programs that might help you, but if nobody understands what you're saying, they will help you write a proposal, but it's not going anywhere. So that first step is where we can play in Idaho. We like to play in Idaho.
Yeah, I think that's well said. That carries through to your team. I mean, if you can't articulate that vision, how do you align with one another to solve the impossible, right?
It looks like we did get rearranged the windows, makes it easier to follow the questions. But,
Now we can sit back a little.
yeah, we're running a little on the long side ish. We did get a question coming in. It says it's from Gary. Gary S writes, "I'm a techie not knowing how to move forward. You've given lots of good information. Who would be a good place to start?" Teresa, Pam, Dave, Laurie?
Yep.
Any
One of the quick things right out of the gate is to do a contact the Innovation Center, us, and what we can do is do a quick dialogue right out of the gate. What area of expertise do you have? What solicitations may there be that may link up with your interests? We can do an initial review, and it's really important that we connect the dots on that end of it. And then if we find out, we start innovating, strategizing the pathway to commercialization success and solving problems in society success. And if they can do that right out of the gate, first thing, contact one of us. We'll put together an initial Zoom meeting or whatever we need to do that way. And then we can start just exploring possibilities and so forth. And things just flow organically from there.
You were breaking up when you said to contact who?
Contact the Idaho Virtual Innovation Center, which is our organization.
On the screen there now.
Yep. Just contact us. We can help out.
All right.
Thank you, Teresa, for putting that screen up. That's awesome. And actually, I'm going to take this opportunity just to sorry, I keep looking at my watch, to put in our plug for the next event, which is May 14th, where we're going to be spotlighting incubators. So that fills in on this. Incubators with TM Rastegar of Trailhead. So that's coming up. Any other additional questions?
I think it's important to note that we have the support of Holly Troxel and other partners in the community. Steve's here. So, we look forward to the day that we'll all be hosting together face-to-face, of course, and having breakfast together. That will sometime in the near future.
Hopefully. I actually thank you, and we were happy to support this. I did have a question. I think really there's no sort of limit on what the technology is that the companies are developing that can apply for these grants. It's not tied to defense or government programs or anything. It's just some good idea.
Let me step in here. You have to be careful and be selective. This is part of what this innovation standard does. When David said we'll think about it, there are those agencies, the National Science Foundation, the Health and Human Services. They actually don't have a capacity to buy anything from you. They have research funding and they're obligated by congressional statutes to assign money to SBIR. What they do is to try to help you develop technology that you can sell to the DoD or any other person in the private sector. So they go through, just vetting ideas. If you have an idea from graduate study, from your natural ability, from your environmental experience, you are allowed to describe this and then communicate it across. Somebody else has to believe it. It has to address a national interest. Otherwise, we're just spending money. It has to address a national interest there will be so many, almost 7 layers of investigation to see what interest. Typically, I advise people look at what the president has said, what the secretaries have said, what the Congress has have said, and then decide which aspects of this your technology relates to. If the government is saying it, then there is a need. Then you have to tailor your technology to that. Now, you can present that. Now, however, the DoD and most of the other agencies, they award contracts. So they give you the specification that they really want. When they give you a leash, they want it to be short. They want you to go to an Army office or a defense office and get a letter that they will buy this stuff. So because they go to war immediately or they go to act immediately. Their submarines are under the water every time. They're not waiting for 2 years to get this. They want things that can go out now. So it can go both ways, but that's why we talk and we try to guide you. If it's your technology, it's how to describe it. The process of describing your technology can take 6 months, trust me, because nobody understands just what you were saying. The quicker you can do that, the quicker you can get a grant.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is if you have an idea, let's talk about it and we'll figure out how to fit it in if we can.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. And following on what Bam just said, there's another critical element. Your marketing, a company is marketing more than just to the public on a commercialization plan. They're marketing what they have to the government agencies. And if they don't have a good pitch and it's not clear and it's technology overload to the examiner or the person that's looking at potentially deciding whether your project's of value or merit or not, you just lost. So the key thing, that's why you got to talk to us to begin with. We can help frame it, help you to package it, kind of a thing initially. And then when you go to the agencies, it makes it so much easier to get their attention because they can sell it to whoever they're talking to behind the scenes. So the first sales job is to the agencies.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think that's great. Is there a way to look at our success stories so that we can reach out to startups and smaller companies that we think fit that description? Are there some factors that you guys have found commonalities that we can use as we come across these startups?
You know, one of the things you can do is if you go to SBIR.gov and you look under those success stories, it will give you a description of the company, what they did, what organization they went into, were they a phase 1 or a phase 2. It'll let you see or get an idea of what has been approved over the last year. And you literally can do a filter to the left side that lets you go all the way back 10 or 15 years. So there is a way to look and say, hey, my idea would fall into this category, or I could do this with the NHI or whatever it is and whatever company, DOE. And we have had 6 agencies approved for the state of Idaho just last year alone. So it's worth looking at on the SBIR.gov website under their success stories. Filter it to the left for the Idaho companies, and you'll be able to get a really good understanding. And the beautiful thing is you can also look at other states and what is being approved there as well. So you know if you have something that would match in that area.
That said, remember, copy and paste don't work in this game. So what idea you have is where you start. If your idea is going to be like another, it's not transformative. Somebody else has been there. So whatever idea woke up in your mind is what you want to work with. Just follow that light. Edison did. We have light today. So follow that light. And there are people who will listen. Experience on our team is varied. And for me, we always ask ourselves to participate because success comes from because you failed somewhere, although it's not necessarily failure, it's experience gaining. We have a lot of people that have failed in many things. So you know what's not going to work. And if you want to get at the market, if you're going to get the dollar from my pocket, my inheritance, I have to assess what you're saying. If you can't convince me, I'm not giving you. So if I can't give you, who's going to give it to you? The federal government, people try to insult it like it doesn't think. It does think. And it's looking for ideas that will work. Dr. Nis just told you a lot about it. So it's a good idea to go forward and whatever came to your mind, start from there. You can look at others, but stick with what has come through your mind. Don't try to game the system. It won't work.
Well, I'll tell you this, based on this event, the knowledge that's on this video, the knowledge that we've experienced and the resources that have been organized are worth its weight in gold for startups and small companies in Idaho. So I know that we want to make this more available. And in fact, I think we should plan a follow-up of this again throughout the year.
Yeah.
Because I just think this is really important. So well done.
Yeah, one of the other things that's interesting is we can connect individuals who are interested to other individuals who have been there, done that. Bam, for example, he's got 8 SBIRs, and it's so nice to talk to somebody that's walked the pathway, not just talk to people that are standing on the outside trying to guide. So we've got companies we can get you connected to. When it gets to the right stage, we can help you to see what they went through. and they can pitch it to you. They can tell you the excitement of getting the money and stimulating the team. And to me, the biggest thing for this whole thing, what in the world would it do for Idaho if we can turn around and bring a whole new industry, a whole new technology, and build the education resources and interest and excitement? Look what's happened to Utah, the mini Silicon Slope now. It's moving to Idaho, guys, and we're a big target right now, and we're excited to be here.
And we have such great resources.
That's
from-
right.
Well, we just have to use it well, so we
Yeah.
can go where we want to go. That's right.
We got the
Excellent.
universities.
Universities,
STTR,
The incubators.
the
So,
incubators.
yeah, the next event on May 14th will be a spotlight of the incubators.
So it'll be awesome. Yeah. Any last minute questions? Teresa, any last minute comments since you're sitting there in your virtual office?
This is my actual office. But I love the virtual environment that we're in right now. But I just want to sincerely thank our team. It's been a pleasure to work with the organizations that came together. When we rolled out this concept, it wasn't just one entity that was rolling it out. It was all of this, the statewide partners coming together saying, absolutely, I'm on board. Let's get the ball rolling. And I think that's what's so exciting, is to be able to connect, take down the silos, and for people to come together, because I think from this particular example, a lot of things are going to be generated across the state of Idaho. And it's because of those people, their talent, their knowledge coming together.
This is definitely a game changer. And we just need to make sure that people know it exists.
You know, one of the key things that we want to do is identify the bottlenecks for companies moving forward. If that's grant writing, if that's getting a student team project to do a market feasibility analysis to help shore up and reinforce the project, there's so many things we can do. Teresa was down in Utah and she was part of the SBIR program down there. We got incredible players. We've got Department of Commerce, we got ITC, we've got the Idaho National Laboratory, we've got economic developers. I mean, I've never seen this kind of a team before.
No, it's very well said.
Yeah, you're here. Thank you all. I guess we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
And we'll see you all hopefully next month on the 14th.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all
Thanks,
for your
everyone.
time. Thank you so much.
Bye, Dr. Lee.
See ya. Oh,
Thank you,
yes,
Teresa. This was
Yeah,
phenomenal.
thank you.
Wow.
Teresa, David.
And David.
You bet. It is so exciting to see this come together. And I think the biggest push for us is just to watch those numbers increase, as we've been watching them just from last year to this year, the numbers that have been increasing. And, you know, coming from and working for the state of Utah, you know, I always tell my colleagues when I move to Idaho, we're going to give you a run for your money. And
Yeah.
hopefully this is one area that we're definitely going to give them a run for their money.
It's so practical, and we just need to connect, bridge this gap from
Yeah.
the people that
Yeah.
need it. And
Yeah.
even while we were in the event, Kaz and I were talking about how this would affect my company and
And other small companies
other
we
small
know about
companies, so,
nearby. In
yeah.
fact, there's one company in Washington State that I've been working with just informally that I want to bring to Idaho for this reason now.
Fantastic. Yeah, bring them here. We've got a lot to offer.
Awesome.
wow, this was cool.
You guys have a great weekend, and thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too. Take it easy. We'll see you.
Take care.